When Aaron is not running things, the mom gets things messed up. I'm sorry about that. I'm talking and talking, and my mic was muted. Okay, anyway, here we are. But just a couple of things quickly. Last week we talked about gardening and seed saving and all of that, which was very, very useful. Glad you can hear me now, Tambre. Thank you. This week, though, we're going to talk about preserving the harvest, because what good is it if we work really hard to create and grow all of this wonderful, special food and make it as nutritious as possible, if then we just, in preserving it, destroy it? So we're going to talk about some of the different methods that I employ and that can be employed to not only preserve the food for filling our bellies, but for nurturing our bodies as well. And I'll let Lucinda and Kurt talk about the special that they're running, but I want to encourage you to check out texasready.net. Our viewers get a discount using the coupon code TABLE. And we really appreciate that. I know that all of you will be happy to take a look at that and to enjoy that discount. That's very generous. I am going to bring Lucinda and Kurt on right now. Whoops. Oh, no. Oh, there you are. For just a moment, I thought you were gone because I hit the wrong button. But you're here.
Right.
Can you hear us?
We can hear you, yes.
Good.
Great. Well, we're delighted to be back with your audience, Maureen. God's Good Table is such an important institution that's getting off the ground right now. And as you said, it's very important to properly save the harvest so we're not wasting our energy and efforts.
Right. That is so important. And we're going to talk about some different methods that I employ and that you employ. And you have one very interesting device there that we're going to talk a lot about. But when we start this conversation rolling, I first want to talk about, why are we preserving besides filling the bellies? What can we do? What are some various options? And for our viewers who have seen my presentation last September, I believe, my survey of food preservation methods, if you haven't watched that, check it out, please, because I'm not going to go over all of that again right here, but I do just want to touch base about a couple of things. But let's first talk about what not to do. And Lucinda, you sent me some things that I read, and I did some independent research of my own, as I have for years, actually. And what I have found is that typical methods of preserving foods that all of us employ or have employed, while they do save the food product, they don't necessarily nurture the body because it comes at a cost. And one of my big things is just canning. Canning is the go-to for preserving foods. So let's talk about the pluses and the not so pluses about canning first. I know I feel like I'm stepping on toes every time I say this, but I really discourage people from canning, especially high pressure canning. And Lucinda, you and I talked a lot about this, and we both gathered some information about the degradation of nutrients. And so if we can step back even just for a moment, that's okay. It happens, folks. I turned my phone on silent because otherwise, especially right now, man, it's just blowing up. Got a lot of work stuff going on. Anyway,
one thing I want to throw out there as a caveat to all of this is, depending on a person's budget or their interests, their needs, the size of family, they really are going to have different methodologies. I do think it's important to put a lot of tools in our toolkit and to try out various things. So I am not opposed to that. And we have three main things that we wanted to share today that people can immediately put to use. And they are, budget will necessitate which piece of equipment is right for you.
Yeah.
Now, of course, all three of these will save your family money. Now, I think I sent you something on canning. Straight pressure canning is going to be about 40% of the nutritive value at the end of the day.
Which is astoundingly abysmal, because you have put a lot into producing that food. And to lose as much as, and I'm reading anywhere from 40 to 60% loss of nutrients. What good is it besides that you're...
Well, the big commercial people are losing quite a bit as well. Now, of course, if you pick it from your garden and can it that, few days right after that, you can help yourself out.
You'll salvage some.
You can, but if you were to buy it from the Kroger's or whatever, and then can it, now you have a 14-day trip from field to Kroger's, and then to your refrigerator, and then, that's going to be even worse. So you have to really do some planning if you're going to be, going the way of the canning and the dehydrating methods.
Yeah. And it's a lot of our listeners are gardeners, and others are part of CSAs where they're getting fresh produce. So the fresher, the better. Correct. Because you begin to lose nutrients within
15 minutes. 15 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the main nutrients that we're talking about here are vitamins. And the reason why the vitamins are important is they all are part of the mechanics of the physiology of building tissue, healing, putting minerals to work. So, for instance, with the large loss of vitamins, our bodies cannot incorporate the minerals. So, okay, the minerals are preserved. Yeah, of course, because they're not minerals are minerals. They're a very different thing than a vitamin. They're stable. Minerals are stable no matter what, but vitamins are not, and our bodies cannot utilize, for instance, calcium, phosphorus, magnesium without the attending vitamins that God put together in that package. And so we really need to be careful about preserving the vitamin content of the food. The minerals are going to be there no matter what.
The heat process is what degrades those vitamins more than any other thing. Light is another problem. And so your storage of your canned goods should be in a cabinet, or, it should be dark. Yes. And it should be never hotter than 95 degrees. And that's ridiculously hot. Ideal would be 50 to 65 degrees. So if you have a basement, you're very lucky. If you have a root cellar, you're very lucky.
Yeah.
So those are two great places that you could store your food. The turn of the century, 30,000 people were dying from incorrectly canned goods. Okay, the botulism was never killed off in the canning process. That is the danger of not using the pressure canning method. And if you do not use the pressure canning method long enough, you still run into that danger. Now, they've knocked it down to about 3,000 people annually are eating botulism from canned goods. So it really behooves us to be very careful with the pressure. We have a pressure gauge that has to be followed very closely. That really should be recalibrated at least every 18 months. And every AgriLife center, which is in every county in the United States, can help you do that. So call your AgriLife people. Your tax dollars have paid for that. And then you have to be sure that the seals are good. On this American canner over here that we sell, no seal is present because they have a different technology. It's metal to metal. Oh, but you use oil to create that seal.
Create the seal,
This American canner, that's the only canner we're going to sell. It'll last 200, 300 years. But
Yeah.
your Presto can, a lot of your Presto canners and other brands have a rubber seal, and you
Mhm.
think, oh, I'll buy some extra, rings. Well, that doesn't do you any good because they're stored in little cartons, and they will crack over
Yeah,
time.
I've noticed that with others. Yeah, they get brittle.
That's right. And anytime that there is something brittle like that, you should not be doing pressure canning with it. Replace that and then, do your canning. So taking good care of your canning products is really important. This American canner that we sell is the proper size for most stove tops. And they do recommend that you do not have a glass top when you do the canning. It's so heavy once you get your water and your jars and everything in there that it potentially could crack the top of your stove.
Yeah.
I've known of that happening.
And
So
I have
that
a
is
glass
one thing to be
cooktop.
cautious of. I always like cooking on gas anyway. I have more control over it and so forth. So that's an important thing. Now, another thing I would say about this canning business is do not use Aunt Matilda's 1935 canning book, because the foods have changed in their acidity, and the acidity is what requires us to now do the pressure canning. Okay.
Okay.
So the rates have changed, and this book that we sell has all the latest technology and science and studies and research, 400 recipes with pictures of how you and I eat, because what Aunt Matilda ate is not what we're going to be, comfortable feeding our families. So if you don't have an updated canning book, we highly recommend go to our website and take a look at this.
But Lucinda, I am still just not on the page with
I know.
canning.
I
And the
know.
high pressure canning is even worse because the pressure can denature proteins,
That is
and
true.
that can render them basically toxic in our gut. Toxic, not in the way we typically think of toxic, but our body doesn't recognize that molecule as food, and it treats it as an allergen.
Well, I didn't
So
know that. I'm really glad to learn that. Thank
yeah,
you. So
so I'm
you're an expert in that.
but again, I feel bad because I'm stepping on people's toes, but if we're talking about trying to preserve nutrients, that's just not the direction we're going to go.
It's educational, right?
Yeah.
We're all learning about
Yeah.
how to keep ourselves more healthy.
Yeah.
The other thing that we do is we have the best of the dehydrators, and that
Mhm.
would be an Excalibur
Yeah.
dehydrator. It's 9 trays, very easy. You just simply remove this. You buy this once and it should last a lifetime. We
I know
don't
people
really
have
like
had
the
them for
round.
years and years.
Yeah, we do not like the round ones because it's an efficiency thing. You lose, it's still going to take the same amount of space on your countertop, but you're going to be able to do about 25% more by having the square shape.
Yeah.
But this is the undisputed Cadillac of dehydrators.
Now,
So
can you dehydrate anything liquid in the Excalibur?
you can do fruit leathers. They have to be somewhat sticky to begin with. You couldn't do a soup or a stew like you can with a freeze dryer, but there
Yeah.
are some things that you can do. The pluses are you can get away with a relatively cheap machine, and it's very efficient with electricity, etc. It's
Mhm.
very easy to use. There are some downsides, though. It will not make vibrant red strawberries, or there will be some coloration that the potatoes and bananas and other things go through. Now, there are some things chemistry-wise that you can put on, citric acid and some other lemon bath. You can help, but the colors do deteriorate rapidly in dehydration.
Okay.
And I think the grays and the browns that seem to prevail are just not very food appealing, for my family. So we have stayed away a little bit from the dehydration. Now I know
Okay.
you're a huge fan of the pickling and the fermentation,
The
and
fermentation. Yeah.
right, because it adds some probiotics and other things that our bodies really benefit from. I think they say now that you should have some probiotic every single day.
I try to have a probiotic with every meal because
Wow.
one of the things, and we'll talk some more about fermentation, but one of the things that fermentation produces is enzymes that both help you digest your food, primarily your fat and your protein, but they also help to keep your gut clean.
Very
And then
important.
the nutrient level increases rather than decreases. It actually, the microbiology, the life within the fermented food actually creates more nutrients. But when we get to talking about, in particular, the freeze drying, um, I have some powders of some very nutritious vegetable powders that have been freeze dried from fermented
That
vegetables.
makes a lot of good sense.
Yeah.
So I think we've pretty much covered this. Now, Kurt is going to give you the pricing on that for your audience and so forth at the end. But we could move on to the freeze dryer if you'd like right now.
Yeah, I really am interested in that. So let's go ahead and talk about the benefits of freeze drying.
Yeah, the benefits of freeze drying is that you're going to have, the color is not going to fade. The shelf life is between 5 and 25 years, whereas canning is a couple years. Dehydrating is less than 5 in every situation. So you can get this. This is the small.
Medium.
I'm sorry, it's a medium. They come in small, medium, large, and extra large. So depending on your needs and your family's budget, that's what you would do. You're going to open it up, and then the tray, in this case, you would have 5 trays. We like to go ahead and fill it and put it into our freezer so that all of our product is going in with the first section of the cycle already being complete. And that way you can have something, finishing out in your machine while your other materials are freezing in your chest freezer. The chest freezer seems to work the best for that.
Now, let me ask you, the trays, are they steel?
They are stainless steel, so it's a very hygienic situation. And you can, depending on the product, you can go ahead and put these silicone pads on there and clean up a breeze, that kind of thing. Now, another thing you can do is, like I said, you can store them in the chest freezer, but you're going to need a lid that you snap on to keep everything, you can stack then, and it's just a great system.
So you're suggesting of doing that before you actually run through the freeze dryer?
Oh, yeah, but I then take this off as I bring it out of the chest freezer.
Okay,
this is just so that it stacks neatly without compressing the bottom trays. You can also get different size. They look like massive ice cube trays. But this way you could get a bite-sized piece. Let's say you wanted to give your kids, say, an ice cream sandwich. You can actually freeze dry ice cream sandwiches cut to this size. And we've got some of those in our little snack. And you have, you have a good blend of snacks here. You've got a couple apple slices. You've got some pineapple, a lot of strawberries, some bananas, and of course, there's one piece in here of a ice cream sandwich. And you'll also note that there is a oxygen absorber in here so that everything stays nice and fresh. Now, I happen to like the jars because, let's see.
Would you rehydrate?
Mylar bag, right? This is 2 servings of beef stew.
Okay.
And so if I was backpacking, this would be the ideal way to go because it's extremely light. Now that all the water's been removed, right? And so I have used a tool that comes with each of these to seal it. Right here, you see this.
Yeah.
And, so it has a press seal like you see on your plastic bags at home, but then it has another opportunity where you double seal it, and that really makes sure that no moisture will be added to it. course,
Okay.
we do have an oxygen absorber inside this, but this is amazing. So in the future, when we're going to, let's say we're camping, we would simply take our knife and cut under that first line, and then we would be able to open it up because it's got that pressure seal, right?
Yeah.
And then we add a cup of hot water to this. We have no pans. It will simply reheat and reconstitute the food in probably 30 to 40 seconds. It is amazing.
Now, you said that's a Mylar bag.
This is a Mylar bag, which means that it has a aluminum coating on the inside.
Oh, but we don't want
protection.
aluminum coating.
Well, I understand, but
not. I mean, I would still take that and use it, but I just wouldn't add hot water to it. I would dump it into something.
yeah, that's
we don't
fine.
want the aluminum.
Yeah, that's fine. I understand
that.
that.
But the bag idea is a good one.
The bag is good. It comes in several sizes. So you can, get a packet of these oxygen absorbers, pretty reasonable. Okay. You've got, a size that you've just seen, probably for 6 servings. This is probably for 8 to 10 servings. We put pork chops, steaks, whatever inside here. Now, as long as you do not have your ingredients go over the top of your tray, then they say it's, the right height. This is a cookie sheet height, but you don't want it to go over. You don't want any spillage or anything like that. It'll change the dynamics of the timing of your freeze dryer. So
you're going to want to probably just underfill slightly rather than
and that's something I've learned the hard way. So just take it from me, right? So there's really 100 or so different items that you can do. The only things that you need to avoid was you would not freeze dry butter. You wouldn't do pork belly. It's got too much fat.
So the fat doesn't freeze well.
That does not work. Believe it or not, people are freeze drying peanut butter, but I would not do that as you're learning how to do this. I would stay with fruits and vegetables and so forth.
Okay.
So
I am intrigued with the fruits and the vegetables and meats. And go ahead and show us. I'm going to walk.
Let's see some of these. Okay, so this would be our jalapenos, and you'll notice that we do have our oxygen absorber in there.
Okay.
This is 60 eggs.
I think that is so cool.
Okay. And so what I would do to reconstitute this is I have 2 tablespoons in, say, a little jar of hot water. And I have I'll just take 1 tablespoon of this powder. I'll stir it. And now I have my 2 scrambled eggs for breakfast.
Okay.
So it's amazing. And you cannot tell the difference once you cook it up. You cannot, by taste or smell or looks, finished product. I've done taste tests with people and they cannot tell the difference. So that's amazing. Now you can preserve eggs.
When I saw that you had that at Polyface, because eggs are one of the things that I've thought a lot about.
Right.
About preserving.
And I've researched 100 different methods, including the water glassing and others. This is by far the easiest way to preserve it. And to me, the taste situation is so critical. It's got to taste like a scrambled egg, fresh egg.
Yeah. And the fact that it is so lightweight and still nutrient dense. So freeze drying. What is well, go ahead and finish showing us.
So this is bay leaf.
Nutrients.
Yeah, this is bay leaf. And so normally they would turn brown if you dehydrated them. And these are, still vibrant green. So I really like that look. Okay. And I like the fact that it's 97% nutritive retention. And I did some checking as I sent you an email today. The articles that I had read 2 or 3 years ago are simply not on the internet. And of course, the United States Department of Agriculture does not get into this. And there's a a university in Georgia that does a lot about food preservation. They don't address this at all either, unfortunately.
Yeah, I looked at their website and several others earlier, and it just seems like they don't get it.
They're
like
not.
It's not important.
They're lobbied, as we know.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
so this is sriracha sauce. Now, I have a business partner that cannot live apparently without hot stuff. So we just took the liquid, which it's a little soupier than ketchup would be.
Mm-hmm.
We poured it on our tray, did our freeze-dry process, scooped it up, put it through a coffee grinder, and now we have powdered sriracha sauce. So again, we would take a tablespoon and add the hot water to it, and we've reconstituted with no taste differential at all.
Well, you could also just sprinkle a little bit onto wherever you wanted to impart flavor, which is what I do with my dried vegetable powders, which I get from Dr. Cowan's garden primarily.
Okay. Yeah. Does anybody have purslane in their sidewalks? I think everybody in America does, right? This is purslane, and in Europe they use this as a spring tonic to cleanse your liver and your kidneys. Make a tea with it, use it as a drink. I mean, it's amazing. And so what I've done is I've powdered this, done it the same way. I just crushed the leaves, put it in. It's it does sit up a little bit, but because it's non-liquid, it's not going anywhere. Once I take it out, it's very crispy. I put it into the coffee grinder, grind it down. And this powder, again, is 25 years. And if a child comes to my place for a dinner and says, I don't like vegetables, I said, great. Take a couple tablespoons of your vegetable powders. They will never know, but you have really upped the nutrition through this freeze-drying tool.
Lucinda, that's a very good point. You can easily add that powder to a variety of other foods that they're already eating.
That's right. Lasagna, spaghetti sauce, stew, they don't stand a chance. We're going to get them full of fruits and vegetables.
Like I do. And I've done that very thing with the other powders and some other things. I just, add them. And people don't realize that they're eating, it might be liver. It might be heart. It might be some vegetable that people think they don't like. Yeah.
And see, the freeze dryer is also very versatile. We can freeze dry pig ears, and then that would be a chew for a pet.
The dog. Yeah.
The dog food, because the dog food is baked in excessive heat, and that takes the nutrition away from most of the dog foods.
Yep.
And so we're able to, treat our pets very nicely using the freeze dryer.
Now I think I may have shown this to you before. I'm not sure, but those who know me will know what this is. I bet Carmen and Tambray know what this is. Girls, if you're paying attention, do you know what it is? This is something that I have taken to the point of leather and used the food mill or the coffee grinder to grind into a powder, but I have thought time and time again, this would be so much easier in a freeze dryer. So you mentioned that for a liquid, it can't be super runny. This is
eggs. Eggs are pretty runny.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a good
example
then
runny.
to know. Okay.
Yeah.
Because this is actually chicken stock. And
lovely.
Is it's at least a half a gallon of chicken stock.
It's very concentrated.
I just simmer it down, but my husband, every time I do this, he says, so how long did you have the stove on? How much electric did that take? Well, it takes a few hours for me to simmer down to this, but I wonder if I can just simmer it part way down and then put it in the freeze dryer.
Well, I think that's a great way to get chicken stock, the bone broth, and those kind of things that are so essential for our health.
I'm guessing maybe that's what some of the big companies are doing. Yeah, well, I need the freeze dryer to experiment, and I'm thinking about it.
Now they say that a family's, if you do everything that your family's going to eat in 10 months, you can recoup the cost of your freeze dryer.
Yeah.
So there is some cost savings to this that are important to consider.
Yeah, and I am thinking that, and I'm thinking in particular about the bone broth. I make gallons and gallons, and it takes up freezer space. So I don't like to freeze it. I actually rarely freeze it anymore. But before I left to come up here to Maine, I made about a gallon, and I think I reduced it by maybe 25%. I didn't have time to continue to get it down to this point, so I did stick it in the freezer, and I don't like to do that. It takes up too much space, and if the electric goes out, you're sunk. But again, the other thing, we want to talk a little bit about fermentation, but this, for example, is a quart of homemade sauerkraut. Now, I drink the brine more than I eat the vegetable matter just because I don't enjoy it, but the brine is super good for me. But I will puree this and use it in salad dressings and mayonnaise and anything else I can think of. But if I were to puree this and put it in the freeze dryer,
then you've got it in powder form.
Yeah, and the enzymes would still be preserved, right?
That's right. That's right.
That is intriguing to me.
Now, my understanding, you correct me if I'm wrong, that originally the fermenting process takes place on the kitchen counter or someplace out of the refrigerator, giving time for the natural yeast in the air and so forth to work with the, whatever it is.
The microbes. It's particularly lactobacilli.
Right. After a while, though, you have to put that in the refrigerator, and the
you have
shelf
to keep it cooler. You don't have to necessarily put it in a refrigerator.
Okay.
But it needs to be cool and dark. So like a root cellar, or I have a storage area in my downstairs where I keep some of these things that it's cooler and it's dark.
So 40 degrees, 50 degrees?
50.
50. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And 50. So how many months will that last at that temperature?
At my house, it never lasts more than a year because we eat it. But I have had people tell me that they've kept sauerkraut or found sauerkraut that's been years.
Yes, sauerkraut is, for whatever reason, I've heard that the kimchi, there is 100-year kimchi.
Yes, there is, and 100-year miso, and all of that is fermentation. Making tea and coffee is fermentation for that matter. So the fermentation in and of itself does protect. And I think we should all be fermenting some of our foods. But for long-term storage, that's where I'm intrigued by the freeze dryer, because this is heavy and it's mostly water.
Right.
And it takes up a lot of space still. So if I'm trying to put food away for all of the people that I feed, which is quite a few, and I want to have a year at least stored up, that's just not practical. I don't have enough space to store enough of this for a year or more I'm not even going to guess at how many people.
Okay, so you can store for a couple. If you were to use the space that a queen size bed takes up in quart jars and then put the mattress back on top, or get those risers for $15 at Walmart.
Yeah.
And now that is all that a couple would need for 1 year.
Okay.
You need 240 quart jars per adult spatially. That will be enough food for 1 full year.
But are you talking canned food or freeze-dried food?
No, I'm talking just canned food in glass jars, glass quart jars, 240 quart jars.
So if we instead use the freeze dryer,
it will be a little less
nutrients, then it would be a lot less.
You should be about 2/3 that. Mm-hmm.
I've never thought about using the under the bed space in that way. And I have under bed space. We don't have drawers. It's just a platform.
Right.
So what a good idea. Thank you. I haven't thought of that. Hey, everybody. Maybe you've thought of it and I'm just a little slow.
Well, we all bring our contributions, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we help each other.
Yeah. But one of our friends mentions that she needs to learn how to use her freeze dryer because hers is sitting in her garage. because it's heavy, so she hasn't been able to move it. But if you have a freeze dryer, first of all, you've overcome one hurdle. You've been able to buy it. And the second hurdle is having a place to put it. So that is a medium sized.
This is a medium. That's right. And Kurt knows all the dimensions of all of that. I believe that that's on our website. So it's very easy to figure out what is going to work for you. They don't like them to be run in a garage because it's too hot, because this will throw off a lot of heat. And of course, if you're freeze drying in a hot environment, well, we're trying to freeze dry. So we're constantly fighting the temperature zone if we try to do it in a space that's hot, like a garage might be. So we want to think about maybe a utility room, maybe the counter in between the washer dryer. Those might be good places. It's good to have it up because there is a vacuum pump that has almost like it's a clear bicycle tubing, and it's going to throw the water off, right? And so you want to have like a 5-gallon bucket underneath that tubing so that this can drain very easily.
Yeah.
And so that is something.
Utility room. My utility room has a drain on the floor, so we could actually. Wow. See, we're learning so much here. Then how long would it take, say, to freeze dry a harvest of green beans from the garden or tomatoes?
Green beans, probably, if you're going to powder them, you don't need to chop the ends off. Okay, but if you are going to use it for a standard serving of green beans, you're going to cut the both ends off. You want it so that it's going to fit into your canning jar, or your Mylar pack is a little bit more free. But if you were going to put it into a glass situation, like I do most of the time, then you're going to want to make sure it's sized so that when the lid goes on, it's going to fit. I'm going to say 24 to 30 hours is what it would take. Now, that's if I freeze it ahead.
Okay. Always freeze.
And that'll save you quite a bit of time and energy and trouble to do it that way.
And
now,
then
if I was going to do liquids,
if
I was going to do liquids, I'm going to put this flat into my ice chest. I'm going to, in a separate bowl, mix up my eggs and scramble them. Then I'm going to carry that pot into my chest freezer so I don't carry a tippy-toppy, and drop this all over my kitchen floor, which I have done, or inside my ice chest, which I have done.
Yes.
Learn from my mistakes. And then I just pour it in. Then I put that lid on, and then I start with my next layer. So it's very easy to do that way. But liquid,
the lid does provide enough
into your ice chest.
Okay. That's interesting. And if I were doing something else like that was more liquid, have you freeze dried anything that is more liquidy, like yogurt or broth?
I have. But again, I'm carrying that into my chest freezer. That's just a more efficient, safe way to do it.
I'm wondering about the time that it takes in the freeze dryer.
So it's going to be 24 to 36 hours to do your green beans, depending on the size of your green beans. Different varieties go at a different pace. Your limas are going to be at a different pace and so forth.
But something that's more liquefied.
Okay, so if you're going to be doing, say, chicken soup.
Yeah.
So I would say 36 to 48 hours. 36 hours would be, more typical.
Okay. And that's going to throw off heat. How is it on electricity?
We have not noticed that big a deal with the electrical bill. Okay. It hasn't seemed to, make a graph go up in terms of cost. Okay. And Kurt has another tray. You want to talk about that?
Hang on a second. Let me just make a couple of. She's the bean planter and I'm the bean counter, so I'm more interested into the technical end of things than she is. So in terms of energy costs, you can go on YouTube and there are people who have done studies on that, and you can see what their results are. They check the meter and they do all the whole thing. And really running even one of the really larger machines for an entire cycle is not that expensive. You're only looking at, maybe $2 to $3 or so. It's pretty cheap. I mean, if you had an extra large going with a lot of liquid and it's going to take 48 hours or something, it's going to be more than that. But still, it's really it's pretty inexpensive. So there's just a whole lot of things that commend the freeze drying system over something else. Really what you're talking about is productivity. How much expense and how much time is it going to take for me to get X amount of pounds or ounces or whatever your metric is. So Lucinda was showing you, this is a medium tray. A small tray is going to be about 2/3 the size of this. So Harvest Right freeze dryers come in 4 different sizes: small, medium, large, and extra large. So this is a medium tray. This is kind of what we sell the most of, the mediums. The small, I mean, I can sell and have sold smalls, but going up to a medium is just a few $100s more, and you really get, because not only do you get the more surface area on your tray, but you also get an additional slot. So a small freeze dryer is 4 slots with a smaller tray. A medium is now 5 slots with a larger tray. A large would be 6, and an extra large would be 7. So we run an extra large here. That's what Lucinda's been using. So we have 7 of these trays.
Oh, wow.
So that's an extra large compared to a medium.
Oh, wow.
So, and then a large would be in between these two sizes. So every time you go up, you are actually increasing the output per batch at around 40 to 50%, which is really significant. So when you do the cost analysis, if you have the ability to go up to a larger size, then it might not be a bad idea to do that. Now, here are the reasons why you might want to do that and the reasons why you might not want to do that. These are substantial pieces of machinery, right?
Yes.
So this is very heavy. I had to get somebody to help me lift this thing up here. When people are using machine, they typically will put it on top of like an office supply cart. So it's easily movable. You're not going to want this sitting around in your kitchen when you're not actually using it. It's in the way, it's large, and so forth. So when you're not using your freeze dryer, you need to wheel it somewhere else. And having guys move this thing around is not something you really want to spend a lot of time on. Another thing you should simply be aware of is you never try and pick one up by the door. The door will snap off. That's not covered by your warranty, okay? You always lift it from the bottom, or, tilt it on its side or something. All right, so this being the medium, you can imagine how large the extra large is. The extra large will probably come up to here, and it's pretty good size. And it's got to be long enough for you to slide that tray all the way in, right? So it's a pretty good size of machinery. The other thing that you need to understand is that for the large or the extra large, you're going to need a dedicated 20 amp circuit. That's the size circuit that would run your microwave. All right. Okay. When I say dedicated, you've got a circuit that's going to the freeze dryer that only will ever run the freeze dryer. All right. The smaller freeze dryers do not require that, but you need to be aware of that if you want to go to a large or an extra large. Now,
but I'm going to suggest that people toss their microwave and replace it with that, because we don't like microwaves.
Well, here's the deal.
That's my thing. Don't use a microwave.
Everybody's got their thing. So we cater to people who are survivalists, who are very health conscious, who are people who just like monkeying around in a kitchen, who might, so we cover a lot of people, a lot of territory. Everything that we sell has pros and it has cons, just depending on how you look at it and what's important to you. I don't dictate what's important to somebody else. I just tell them this is what something will do, what you can expect to get out of it, and that's their decision.
But we're talking about preserving the nutrients. That's why we don't.
So not everybody has thousands of dollars to spend on this. In fact, a heck of a lot of people do not. A heck of a lot of people see the importance of eating healthy, but they can't afford this. They're especially today they're wondering how they're going to pay that month's rent. So that we can't expect everybody to move to this, but if you can financially pull it off, this is certainly the best method. In terms of the food preservation community. Home freeze drying has just turned everything upside down. All right, because this wasn't available to people in their homes, 15 or 20 years ago, but it is today, and so we're very fortunate to take advantage of that. Now, the extra large that Lucinda and I use, if we keep this running around the clock year round, and there are a lot of people with these who do have them running around the clock, this will generate 1,440 number 10 cans of freeze-dried food in 1 year. Wow. And if you've priced Mountain Home or Thrive cans of freeze-dried food, you're going to be paying anywhere from $50 to over $100, depending on what's inside the can. Mm-hmm. Imagine being able to generate over 1,400 of those with this one machine, or an extra large one of these, in 1 year's time. It makes the utility cost shrink to virtually nothing. You will pay for this within 2 or 3 months. And that's why a lot of people are buying these things to freeze dry things and then go out to farmers markets and sell them, or state fairs or whatever.
I do actually have a friend who does freeze drying for people, and obviously she charges for it. So she has a little side business, both freeze drying for people and selling freeze dried product.
Yeah, and here's a real neat spin on it. When Lucinda and I were at the Exit and Build conference last year in 24, somebody said that what they did is they went to a farmer's market, and these guys have been selling all day. Now they've got a cooler with still got some stuff in there, and they're not going to use it. It's probably going to get thrown away. So they take that for free. They go home, they freeze dry it, and then they give a percentage back to the guy that they got it from. So he's benefiting. Now he's got some freeze dried stuff, and they're just running their stuff, and they're not paying anything for what they're getting. So there are a lot of creative ways you can really put one of these things to work.
That's a good idea, because the only two big concerns that I had are space and money. But if you can actually easily generate income, then you can pay for the machine as well as the electric.
I've got people who have bought several extra larges from me because their business has grown to the point that they are having a hard time keeping up. And the big thing that I'm sure you've seen out there is freeze-dried candy. People freeze dry Skittles and stuff like that, and I mean, these things sell just like that, and
they sell like
a lot of people are doing it. Now, getting back to the technical side of things, so you're going to have you would not put an extra large on a rolling cart unless it's a very substantial industrial grade cart. That's something that if you're going to buy extra large, you need to find a place for it, and that's where it's going to live. And like Lucinda says, it's not going to happen in a garage if you're here in Houston, because it gets way too hot for that. You will overwork your pump. You could probably get away from that with that, somewhere up north, but certainly in Houston, our summers will not allow it. But in the wintertime, it's no problem. If it's cool outside, you can freeze dry in the garage without an issue. When you put it on your cart, you're going to have the freeze dryer on top. It's got to be elevated because, like Lucinda says, there is a little
drain
thing right here. Can you see that? This is a little stopcock with a drain, and this drains down into a bucket. So on the bottom shelf of your cart, you're going to have your 5-gallon bucket that's collecting the water, and you will also have your Premier pump, and this comes with the freeze dryer as well. So this is what pulls the suction on the chamber that's being freeze dried. Okay, so that's also a pretty heavy thing. So that goes down below. So you've got your machine up here, it's operating, you've got your pump and your bucket down here. Every time you freeze dry a batch, you want to pour the bucket of water out, because if you continue to do it, then that water level is eventually going to get over the tube that's going into the bucket. And we've done this. Everybody does it one time. You only do it one time. You've completed a batch. You think everything's cool. and you go and you turn your little stopcock and you open this up, and all that water comes shooting up inside the chamber and totally
then you're
discharges
starting all over.
So not only have you just lost that batch, but you've got a huge cleanup job on your hands.
Yeah.
So always make it a habit to drain the bucket every time you run a batch. That way you never have that issue. Because if you forget to do it a couple of times, then you're going to realize what happened. Now, when you go to clean this thing, this ring here on the front just pulls off. This whole sealing ring pulls off
seal
like that. And then this rack actually slides out. So you can remove the rack to clean it, which you'll want to do periodically, and then clean on the inside of the chamber. You little bleach or something, get that clean. This thing actually plugs into a cord back there, which is connected to the machine itself. Right here is your screen. This is a touch screen kind of an operation. There's no knobs or anything.
We can't see that. It's out of our. Out of view.
Here we go.
That's okay.
There we go.
There we go.
All right, so this screen right here is your control panel. The only button you've got on this is the on-off button and back. You'll also have a little USB port here on the side for a flash drive. So Harvest Right periodically will come out with firmware updates on these machines, so you can download that directly off their site and update your machine immediately. It's really a very cool deal. Let's see, what else did I feel it was important? You guys.
I wanted to ask if you're, say, on that size machine, if you are freeze drying vegetables from the garden, how much water goes into that bucket?
Well, vegetables from a gardener is not going to be that much.
It depends on the vegetables. Zucchini does have a lot of, and cucumbers have a lot. Obviously, tomatoes have a lot. But green beans, not so much. Your carrots, your beets, not so much.
Okay.
But however you want to ultimately use your food, that's how you're going to slice it up. Like over here, pull that top one.
This one?
Yeah. This would be for au gratin potatoes.
Okay.
Right? So I don't want to have it mashed potatoes, although we can freeze dry mashed potatoes. Okay. Mm-hmm. So that's how I would do that.
You can freeze dry both cooked food and raw food.
Okay.
And people will do both.
Okay. Now, believe it or not, this is cleaning product. So what I do is I take my citrus, cut it in little strips, freeze dry it, then put it in my chopper, and then I pulverize it in my coffee grinder. And now I add a little bit of vinegar to this. Yeah. And now I have a very wonderful smelling, non-toxic cleaning situation.
Are you using just the peels, or are you using the whole fruit?
I use everything, the entire peel, even that inside white. That's a little bitter if you were to eat it.
Fruit itself.
I've never thought of doing that. That's a good idea.
Okay, so here, this would be mandarin oranges. So I freeze dry the mandarin oranges, package that for eating, but I decided I wanted to make cleaning product. And this is, again, going to last a long time. So it is an amazing machine.
Okay, good. Now I want to know those eggs in that jar. I guess I was thinking about how much liquid there was and how long it would take to do the eggs also.
Okay, 60 times 2 tablespoons is how much liquid came off.
Back here, we should see.
So 120 tablespoons, and yes, I taught math to my kids. I can do that in my head, can't I? Yeah. I can't. That would be, if I can find my calculator.
So I think it's 64 tablespoons per quart, right? So you're looking at a couple quarts.
Yeah.
That's my best guess without doing the actual math.
We're so good at math.
So the reconstituting is so easy. I just know that for each egg, it's 1 tablespoon of powder, 2 tablespoons of hot water.
Okay. All right.
And 15 seconds.
So I'm going to do per egg, 2 tablespoons of water times 60 eggs equals 122 tablespoons. And then I should be asking Siri how many, 4 tablespoons to a quarter cup. So 4 times 4, 16 to, okay, I'm going to stop there. I'm going to stop trying to do that in my head.
Did you talk and I'll do
But
that.
that's a fair amount of liquid. But
Well, you want to get it down to 0. You want as much liquid as possible to come out, because it's the liquid that allows botulism, bacteria, and viruses to live. We want that extracted so that there's no chance. Freeze drying is so safe because there is no chance for botulism.
Yeah.
But there is a big chance for spoilage. Okay. When you're talking about grease and oils, if you're trying to do meat that's got fat veins and stuff running in it, that will go rancid over time.
Yes.
Because what you're doing is you're pulling the water out. You're not pulling the oils out. And over time, those oils will go rancid. So I've got a friend who has done tons of freeze drying for his family. And what he does is he'll take ground beef. He cooks the ground beef. Then he puts it in a cheesecloth or something. He squeezes it out once it's cooked to make sure he's gotten as much as possible of the oil out of that. And then he will freeze dry that. So he cooks the ground beef first. He removes the grease from it, and then he freeze dries the ground beef. And you want to be sure that you're doing it, like Lucinda says, not over the side of this tray. So that's not very thick, because if you get something in here that's too thick, it's not going to freeze dry it on the inside. And over time, then that could be botulism, or it could be, it's just going to go bad on you.
Okay. Yeah.
And this is very much a trial and error thing. You learn as you go, and you're going to see tons of YouTube videos of people showing you what they've done, what worked and what doesn't. So yeah, very useful.
Well, in my mind, where I've landed with all of this is that the 2 very best methods of preserving food are dehydration and fermentation.
Dehydration or freeze drying?
I'm sorry, freeze drying. Freeze drying and fermentation. Freeze drying is a method of dehydration, but yes.
Right. I personally don't like the salting method. I just think that I can't get that saltiness out of the meat or the fish. I don't want to do that. I know it's very safe. It can be done very safely. Sugaring, I don't want that sugar.
I don't want the sugar either. I do some salting. I salt, in particular, the heavy fats you can't use in the freeze dryer, but I salt pork jowl and pork belly to preserve it. And then I can also add some herbs for flavor. So that also is a great way of preserving meat other than freeze drying. So I guess that would be my
And we sell a guide to curing, smoking, all kind of meats, cold storage, vinegaring, salting. So we have books like that, so your people can access it for $20 to $25 a book.
Good.
And these are just fantastic resources.
And remember, friends, that Lucinda and Kurt are offering 15% discount using the code TABLE. Am I correct?
Well, let me, okay, so we got 2 different discounts. So the code TABLE applies to our previous interview with you.
Okay.
Right, that's for the seed banks. So for the seed bank, they were getting a, not a discount, they were getting a nutrient pack.
Okay.
All right, so if you order any seed bank using the promo code TABLE, using the promo code TABLE, that will give you a free $25 nutrient pack that comes with the seed bank. All right.
Okay.
Now, in terms of this stuff, we've got something different, so it's going to be a different promo code, and the promo code is PRESERVE.
Good.
All right. So if you order a canner, you get the home preservation book free with the canner. If you order the dehydrator, you get the dehydrating book free with the dehydrator. If you order a freeze dryer, I have not yet found a really good book on freeze drying. I think it has yet to be written.
That is correct.
But so I can't give you a book for that. But if you order the freeze dryer, you're going to get a free set of trays which is a much better deal because these trays are not cheap. Like a set of the large tray, the extra large trays, I think is like $150 or something.
Okay. And I'm
you'll
really
get
glad that they are steel, not
Yeah,
aluminum.
they're all stainless. Now, you also understand that you're going to get a set of trays with this. With the freeze dryer, you get the trays, you get the pump, you get a bag sealer, you get bags, you get oxygen absorbers, of course, all the hoses and cords that are necessary. You get an oil filter, maybe even something else. So when I say you're going to get an extra set of trays, you're going to get an extra set of trays. And the reason that that's important, like Lucinda said, when you've got something in process in here, you can prep your next set of trays, put them in the freezer, and then as soon as this is done, you pull those trays, you let the ice melt out, and then you pop your new trays in and you're ready to go. And that saves a lot of time on your cycles.
I can see where that would be very beneficial. Yeah.
But if you're going to use a large or especially an extra large, this is not going to fit in your home freezer, in your kitchen freezer.
Yeah.
You would have to have a chest freezer in order to do that.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
I have a large upright freezer, so they would fit in there.
They would not.
I am wanting to purchase one personally. We're in transition, I think, next year, so I'm holding off a little bit. We're thinking of selling and relocating, so I'm not making any major purchases to go into my house right now until we decide where we're going to land. But that is something that I want. I was already very interested, and you've convinced me just how useful they are. I don't like running a big freezer. I do have my meats stored in a freezer, but I prefer to cure them, or I could keep them and preserve the meats in there. Now,
so the big things you have to look out for, and I'm speaking from my experience. Number one, always well, first of all, don't freeze dry anything too thick.
Okay.
Or if you are freeze drying something that you're not sure of, make sure that it is totally freeze dried. I mean, no moisture. That's number one. Number two, you always put one of the oxygen absorbers inside the jar or the pack or whatever you're doing. One of these oxygen absorbers is absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
And you can buy those cheap in quantity.
Okay.
Number three is you watch the fat and oil content of whatever it is that you're freeze drying, because that is going to go rancid on you.
Okay.
It's just going to happen. Number four, store your stuff in a place that's cool. It doesn't have to be in a refrigerator, of course, but climate controlled area. Watch for rodent activity. If you're in a place where you're going to have the possibility of mice in there, they'll chew through these bags and make a big mess of things.
Well, that's exactly why I'm enjoying the glass jars.
Yeah.
The problem with the glass jars is you've got the problem of breakage, you've got the problem of space, and they're heavy and all that. You can do a whole bunch of freeze-dried food, and in these bags, you can have kids lifting up boxes of it and moving them around. So
yeah, and if they were stored in a container with a lid, then the other wouldn't matter. I already store things like grain in 5-gallon buckets, so
right, yeah. Oh, and also be sure that you get a good solid seal on the bag. When you push this thing down on that bag, it's going to melt it together to create that seal. Lucinda said something earlier about the Ziploc bags. No, the Ziploc bag is great for when you open the bag, then you can reclose it. But the Ziploc is not going to seal it for long-term storage. So even though it's a Ziploc bag, you seal the Ziploc, then you seal it, and you make sure that there aren't any little wrinkles or anything in that seal, because that's an opening for air, and that'll come up and bite you in the butt down the road.
Yeah, because air carries moisture.
Exactly.
Amongst other things,
Right.
Yeah. That's really
all right.
interesting.
So that preserve code, if you go online and you type in preserve as a promo code, free set of trays with this for whatever size it is that you order. All right.
Okay.
So you got any more questions for me?
No, I think we're good. I think we can wrap up.
To Lucinda here.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Kurt, can you tell us a little bit about the pricing for some of these? Do you have that at your fingertips?
The pricing on the machines, they start off, I got it written down over here. The smalls are $20.95. That's $2,095. Like I said, I encourage people to go up to a medium. Medium is $24.95. For additional $400, you get the extra tray and a larger tray.
Yeah.
Smalls are great if you're living by yourself and don't have a lot of space, but you probably don't really go that direction. The largest.
I'm actually thinking about a small, because if we decide to live in a tiny house, it's got to be.
Then, yeah, that would be it. And if you're only talking about you and your husband, you could probably get by with that. But
we feed a lot more people, but maybe I don't know. I have to think about it. I'm thinking about things like peaches and apples and blueberries and elderberries this year from my garden.
And you're going to find it on some things like blueberries and so forth. You're going to have to actually pierce the skin to make that freeze drying process work, or chop them up, slice them somehow.
Maybe just
sometimes the thick skin will prohibit that thing from freeze drying.
Okay.
All right. So then your larges are $30.95, and your extra larges are $49.95.
Okay.
Extra large and medium only come in stainless steel finish. The medium, extra large, and small only come in stainless steel. The mediums and larges, you can get stainless steel at an upcharge, or they come in black or white powder coat. And all of that is on our website, in addition to all the dimensions of the machine, the dimensions of the trays, what your annual output per tray is, and all of that.
Okay, good. I'm going to look at that. I'm thinking maybe medium. That's not as large as I thought it would be, actually, for a medium size, and that would handle a lot. So I'm planning. I'm going to get one. I definitely want one, and I can report back. I just have to see if I can do it this year, or I might wait till next spring. But for those viewers and listeners who are already producing a lot of their own food, I just think that is such a superior way of preserving the harvest. And again, my fermentation, because it's so good for us every day. But man, I want to puree this and then dehydrate it. I really do. So that's where my mind is going. Keep on fermenting.
We'll look forward to hearing what you come up with on that.
Thank you. I will keep you posted on that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And if do you have anything final that you'd like to say before we sign off for this week?
I just want to thank you again for introducing us to your audience, and we're going to be very supportive of this new project that you and your daughter have started. We're very excited about that. It's a needful thing, and I understand that you're working under and through Joel Soliton and his group, and I'm sure that you're connecting with a lot of the health groups out there.
We are. We definitely are, through Weston A. Price, of course, and
right.
And Erin, who's not here today, is a nutritional therapy practitioner, soon to be functional nutrition therapy practitioner. So we're always looking for what we can do to help people improve their health, including their spiritual health. But this is all one facet of it. And I also oftentimes am talking to preppers and homesteaders, and this is the kind of information and the kind of tools that they're looking for. I've also considered, if we didn't have electric and we only had the generator, or maybe we have solar power or something, but the freeze dryer would be a good use of that electric, even if
well, that would be a little tough, and here's the reason why. Unless you have some good battery storage, it's got to go cycling through the night, right? So that's why we're putting such a emphasis right now on getting the job done and storing up. I mean, we believe that it could be a several year challenge. And so we want to get that food put up and put away, because without electricity, there goes our freezers.
Yep.
There goes most of our other stuff.
That's exactly how I think. Yeah, we don't have any guarantees in this life.
No,
I
we
look
don't,
forward,
but, you know,
forward to
I
the
think
next, but
about,
we have no guarantees here. And so, yeah, I believe we need to be prepared.
Right.
I think about how those pioneer ladies made it. And I think if they did it, we can do it.
Yes.
You know, and I just want to, you know, thank the Lord that we've been born in this time for such a time as this.
Yeah.
Yes, we have some challenges that, you know, our previous generations did not,
Yep.
but obviously God selected the people here at this time for the challenges that are here. We need to get ready to support our the people that are not prepping. We need to have a lot of forgiveness in our hearts for those that are not doing what they should be doing right now to get ready.
Yeah.
But there is tremendous opportunity. Societies in crisis are much more open to the gospel. That has been a documented, you know, thing through history. So we're taking those opportunities and finding that hearts that we never thought, you know, sections of our society, solar punk, some of the very young people, the new age people. You start talking some Gospel of John to them, and their hearts are very much open, and they're very inquisitive right now. So this is a good time for us to be sharing Christ.
Yes, it is. And that's what we want to do. That's our number one goal. So Lucinda and Kurt, hang on a moment. I'm going to close out here. And I will actually remind people of this. This is what we talked about last week. And this is available with the free nutrient pack. And you can, I don't see that in the photo, but
I'm holding one right here.
There you go. So, yep.
There we go. Free nutrient pack comes with any size seed bank that you purchase if you use the promo code TABLE.
Yeah. So friends, go ahead and do that and share this. Share the video anyway. We ask that you subscribe and share our videos with your friends so that they can learn and be blessed by what we talk about and the information shared by our interviewees. This is how we operate, and this is what we want. We want to share. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up. We have a couple of neat things happening soon. I have a new friend, Nora, who I'll be interviewing in the next couple of weeks. Oh, I'm not even going to say, because we've got several really cool interviews coming up. And I just get so excited because I love to learn and I love to share. So tune in next week. I've got two different people that I'm juggling, so I'm not going to say, but it'll be a good one too. And thank you. And everyone, go out and grow your food. Grow your spirit and share with others. Thank you very, very much. And we'll see you next week. Have a good one until then.